What does a healthy relationship even look like? Is there really any such thing as a twin flame, soulmate? Can you really actually be a power couple? These are some important questions with a lot of the topics that we see in social media today, or a series that we see on Netflix or Amazon about twin flames, escaping the twin flames universe, and how people get duped into giving their money away to people trying to help them find their soulmate when these coaches aren't really qualified to be coaching in the first place. But it brings up a lot of relevant issues about what actually is a healthy relationship. And do we approach relationships for the intention that they're designed for? Or are we trying to meet our needs through the relationship instead of bringing value to it? These are important questions. And today I bring on my good friend, Dr. Ray Doctor, and his beautiful girlfriend, Nicole, who both are coaches. And they have a great relationship in where they're not perfect by any means, but they have learned how to communicate with each other and to resolve conflicts and to learn how to grow together in life as two independent people, both in their power. And I wanted to kind of pull the curtain open on the relationship, ask them some intimate questions, and dig upon their expertise to offer you and myself some insights on how we can approach relationships in a way that's grounded, that's healthy, and that is something we look at as an improvement in our lives, something we feel at peace with, and that we know that we can move into confidently without losing ourselves. So if that's you and you're interested in learning about better relationships, you're going to love today's episode. I'm your host, Eric Copeland, and welcome to another episode of The Music of Life. See you inside. So there's been a lot going on in the world with this whole twin flames thing. If you've seen that series on Netflix, Escaping the Twin Flames Universe, there's talk about soulmates, power couples, and we can often idealize certain relationships, and we can honestly kind of covet them to the degree where we feel they're so magical, and we want that idealistic version of it that we can end up having a bit of what I think is a delusional or illusory, just false perception of what relationships are and the work that really can go into them in order to make them actually powerful. So I want to bring on my good friend, Dr. Ray Doctor, and his lovely, beautiful girlfriend, Nicole, because we had the opportunity to not only discuss the whole twin flames phenomenon, but you guys have a unique situation where you live in Ashland, and a lot of people, when they meet you, they kind of project onto you this idea that, oh my gosh, they kind of gush about you being a power couple, and that people can want to find that too. And that's okay. There's a part of that is beautiful that, we will talk about that. But what I really liked in our conversations is, Ray, you've been a coach for 30 years, as anyone who's seen you on the show knows that. You hold a doctorate in psychology, and you've worked with lots of relationships, both on the as couples, with men, with women. You've really seen it all when it comes to the patterns and the challenges that show up in relationships. And so you really are an expert when it comes to navigating that. And Nicole, you're a coach as well. You work with women and helping them to connect to their femininity and helping them with relationships. So you guys both do have a lot of personal skill level and understanding, or just awareness of what really goes into relationship. And I think that's kind of part of the message. And not that someone needs to have a doctorate in psychology or be a coach necessarily, but that you are leaning into timeless wisdom and what it really means to be a healthy human being. And you're seeing the relationship between that and healthy relationships. And I wanted to shed some light from a much more grounded perspective, where people can see that while you can have magic in a relationship, the truth is it does take some awareness and skill, and there's some practicalities to kind of wielding that magic, so to speak. And with that, I'll kind of throw the ball to you guys, and I want to just have you kind of riff and open up with what your experience is with this whole idea of twin flames, soulmates, power couple, just from your perspective, just to get us going here.
I'll speak first. So for me, working with people in relationships, individuals or couples, one of the first questions I ask them is, what is your why to be in a relationship? And if they say for sex, companionship, which is great, someone they can talk to. For me, it goes deeper than that. And that is where's the journey going to take us to? We're going to have stuff that comes up in us. How are we going to communicate in a healthy way to bring light to our shadows? To what are we like when we are in our shit? And are we self-aware enough to share that with our partner so we don't gaslight, yell at them, project onto them experiences that we had in our unhealed childhood? And so a big part of my life when working with clients and also being in relationships and also dating new people, it was where I was looking for someone, a woman who took personal responsibility, wasn't into blaming me or outside circumstances, a person who was continuing to work in self-development and being able to define herself also. Say, when I say separate from her childhood or her parents, I'm not saying separation in the sense of when we're talking about separation from God, but a person who's recognizing that maybe her parents had a story, but she's going to reinvent herself anyway. And so for me, I wanted to meet somebody who knew who she was, what her why was in a relationship, such as it might be to grow, to expand, to understand myself better, to soften my rough edges, to call out my ego, to make me more humble, and so forth. And so when I met Nicole, which was actually like 12 years after the first time I met her. So first off, we met in 2010 at LIB with 20,000 people. And I happened to take a picture of her. Don't remember her. She didn't remember me, but there was evidence that I must have thought she was hot. And then we met 12 years later, and we kind of look at it as where we now consciously were aligned, that we had done the inner work, whether it was going through challenges with the co-parent, to having a child, to just more self-development stuff. We were aligned. And so when we met, it was really easy. I mean, we laughed a lot. There was flow. And when there was challenges presented, she approached it the same way I would. And that would be like, this is what's coming up for you. What's coming up for, you. Let's talk. There was always a navigation or going into the direction of leaning into challenges versus trying to avoid conflict. There's always there's this propensity to want to learn more about ourselves through each other. And so even if there's something that might bother Nicole or say it can potentially hurt her feelings, I know if I push that down, it could turn into a hidden transgression. Other stories can build on top of that and even lies. So when it's time to finally see our therapist or coach because we haven't had sex for 2 years, we can't figure out like why we got here. But the only thing that would come up is this: we weren't honest. We didn't share from this place of radical honesty. And so to meet a person who could handle feedback in a positive way, to me is rare. And so Nicole's really good at handling feedback, and I hope I am also. And so that's
Nicole.
So when I think of a power struggle, it's a couple that doesn't have power struggles.
A power couple, yeah.
A power couple is when it doesn't have power struggles. Our relationship is first with God or source or great spirit. And then our relationship is an extension of that. So we must heal ourselves as much as we can. We must bring the light into our own bodies. And from that, hopefully we can attract the light from another person, a person we can co-create with in this beautiful relationship.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Nicole?
Well, yeah, it was really good, and I love the idea of expansion. And there was something that triggered the word curiosity when you were talking. Like, if you're going to be in a partnership with somebody, you really do want to be curious because, like you said, everybody's coming from different backgrounds, different childhoods, different belief systems, different perspectives on life. And we just don't know all the details of that, as we're learning to get into a partnership. That's really what we're doing, is we're discovering someone from the inside out. And so we need to be curious, because we have so many different ways that we might approach a relationship. So to me, also, like, a power couple is that it's going into the mystery. You said leaning in, which I love, and going into the harder places, going into the fear, going into the places of our personality that we know is the shadow, or maybe we don't know it's the shadow because it's uncovered through the partnership. But it's helping each other to develop spiritually, as a human being, personally developing, and then finding those aspects of ourselves that, we want to hide behind, or we want to hide, and exposing it, being curious enough to want to expose it so that the person next to you grows with you, instead of through separation. It's like we're always trying to go in and say, how can we amplify each other? How can we assist each other's passions? How can we assist each other's purpose? How can we create a mission together? How can we help others? For me, it was, how do I be with somebody who's also of service? Because that's so important to me. So it's so much more than even just the romantic part of the relationship, but also the service of the relationship to others.
I want to add one thing to that, and that is where when people are struggling with the basics, such as, did you look at her? The jealousy to, what does this text message mean? And then create a negative narrative. It doesn't allow what I feel couples can actually do, and that is be service to the community. There's just so much energy being put into like these unhealed traumas that the relationship can't expand. So when we're able to feel lighter with each other, of course, all we want to do is be able to give back to the community and friends and family.
Yeah. So I'm hearing, I like the word you brought up, curiosity, Nicole. Just as a man, I've certainly noticed that curiosity is quite the aphrodisiac. It's a very, and I think, and I was sitting here thinking, it's like, because genuine curiosity invites genuine authenticity. And I think, something I've noticed, and Tim, and what your experience with this is that when you have courage with a capital C to talk about maybe what's coming up for you in that relationship, and you're able to express that in a space where there's kind of an understanding that this is just something that's being shared for us to bring into the open, and how do you feel or think about it? And when you're inviting that dance between the shadow, what it can alchemize out of that is deeper intimacy. Like you'll discover something, and it's, I think, once you have faith that process works, you start to feel more and more in your power, like in your relationship.
Absolutely.
Does that resonate?
It does resonate.
It's we have a really healthy container to do so much more. Our containers to help our careers as well, and our parenting. So as an example, if she's working hard to figure me out, that energy is going to take from her and her business and other things she can do in her life. I want everything about me to be seen, even if it looks like a lot of things you might want to run from.
No, never.
Another thing I've noticed, and I've had friends, who come to me because I've always geeked out on I want to understand attraction, relationships, just for my own desires to understand. I like to understand things, and as you get more and more competency and courage and faith, and like realizing it's like the answer is always you. It's always coming back to like, am I trusting myself, loving myself, and accepting myself, and is that showing up in my choices, my behaviors, and my actions, or am I questioning myself in some area, which is a lack of self-love? And I think what people do is they were trained, and it's modeled for us to seek self-love from the other, in the form of like validation from them. Instead of showing up with that as a gift, you're showing up seeking to take it. And it's not like it's a blanket thing. It's going to be in a particular, probably a particular area. It's going to be nuanced based on like your story and your childhood and what wasn't affirmed in you or validated as a child that you feel is missing. And your strategy becomes, I need someone else to tell me that, show me that, or do that thing for me. And if I don't have it, something's wrong. They must be wrong. So you break up with them and move on. And then that same pattern shows up in your next relationship. Then you start to feel like the world is working against you, that you just suck at relationships or whatever your story is. Then you see the twin flames power couple. And you're like, what do I need to buy or pay for? And what quick pill do I need to take so I can have that? When really the deeper lesson is like, it's really about having the courage to face the music that like, you're not giving yourself permission to receive love for the self and practices. True coaching, true wisdom is always going to point you back towards sovereignty, not dependency on something external, is what I've noticed.
Yes. Regarding what you just mentioned about the twin flames universe and other, say, pseudo power couples, whatever, is this. And that when a individual or couple, say, does something where it appears in the linear world as success, such as their YouTube channel starts to get views, so they start earning money, they're able to buy the house, they'll see that as validation that they're doing something correct. To where, look, I got this and I can show you how to get this. If they met a partner also and they're getting along, and say they even met in a self-development program, they might think we're doing this great work. And there might be some truth in that, meaning that where the intention is to work on themselves. And when you do feel good, you offer that to other people. And sure, there's a lot of coaching programs out there that do that, that has been successful and has helped out a lot of people. But when you have unhealed trauma, when you still have the ego that's operating the business and seeing things, that it's still experiencing life like this human being like Jeff and Shalia from separation. They're basically saying that we got the things that we were seeking, meaning it's like the blind leading the blind. We got this. We're going to show you how to get this. But this is delusional. It's not something that's going to bring you happiness. In fact, that might not be another human being's path. So therefore, you get someone who has trauma, who's depressed, who she or he has never loved themselves. And you're saying, I'm going to guarantee you a relationship that by doing these things, you're going to experience happiness. You're just reinforcing codependency on the program, on the coaches, to where this person, when they feel let down, like what we have seen, they feel as though now the coaches have traumatized them, which in some cases is true. In some cases, it's not. It's that they have unhealed trauma. The coaches are not skilled and know how to navigate this. They didn't send these clients to a therapist or a coach who knows how to work with trauma. And therefore, they're just kind of back in that cycle where if the coaches are telling the clients that, well, you need to do this, it's your fault. What they're hearing is their parents saying, it's your fault again. And so again, it goes back to this, is that when we make choices, whether we're going to work with a coach, whether we make choices that we're going to date this man, whether we make choices of embarking on our journey, whatever it might be, it's recognizing that, what is my why? Am I complete already? Do I know who I am? Am I trying to escape something? Or am I experiencing this to add on to who I already know that I am? Again, when we're trying to move towards something, come from scarcity, all we recreate is scarcity and more hurt.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's just to have it's important for people to understand, like, you're speaking from a place of compassion and experience, because it's also not your fault that you don't get or understand this or experiencing it. It's not about fault or blame or something's wrong with you. The irony is that that's you telling yourself that. Like, the truth is the fundamental truth of you as a human being. And this is what all spiritual wisdom and even therapy and anything is all. It wouldn't even work or be beneficial in your life if this wasn't true. It's like the zero reality, the fundamental aspect is that you are allowed to exist. And so whatever emerges out of this allowance, when you get out of the way and start allowing and exploring who you are and what desires arise in you, what are your thoughts, like living a meditative life, or where you're willing to just self-reflect, you realize that while sometimes it might be scary to let go of certain ways of that you thought the world worked, they're always replaced with something much more beautiful and magical than what you are actually, your limited perspective was even offering you. And that's, to me, what the purpose of like pain is in life. And for myself, I made pain into an acronym. It just means paying attention is necessary, right? Like, it's a time for like, pay attention. Pain serves a purpose. If I'm touching a hot stove, it hurts. Is that a bad thing? Or does that keep me from, permanently damaging my, flesh so that it becomes dysfunctional? So the sooner you listen to and pay attention to your triggers or pain and realize that there's an opportunity in them to discover something new about the self, and you're willing to have that humility to kind of let go of the ego, that's where you get the whole Jesus advice: when you lose yourself, you'll find yourself. And that's what I'm really hearing kind of coming through with what you guys are saying. You're two individuals that know who you are individually, that can survive and thrive independently, individually. You're not seeking from the other some type of, help fill this void for me. But the fact that you both come from, Nicole's certainly a more feminine, you're grounded in the feminine, and Ray a little more grounded in the masculine from an energy wise. And that's just because that's just who you guys are, and that can fluctuate with people. It just feels natural to dance together. And you realize that two people that show up complete to the, not perfect, but you're aware, you're conscious that you're growing. When you dance together, it creates a unique synergy where 1 + 1 is greater than 2. Because in nature, 1 + 1 actually always equals 3. Like, there's something new that always comes out of that, like a synthesis. And I think that's kind of like what can make a relationship enjoyable, is whenever there's something born out of that relationship that you both get to witness, that you kind of gave birth to because you both were willing to get out of the way of it, and enjoy the dance together, like good old twin flames.
Yeah. Do you want to say?
No, I was going to say, I love what you said about the creation of like the third, the entity, or the creation from the actual partnership being its own entity. Like, literally, it's like a physical manifestation, and that has its own power, also its own authentic power as well. So it is that amplification, and that's where I feel like being of service, that is the shared mission. We have our own purpose and our own purposeful driven, let's say, businesses, but then together we, with all of those triggers and all that pain, we transmute it, alchemize it, and create something else that then has its own personality. It has its own ideas. So it is like a third. I love that.
Well, it is. There's not just two choices. There's always a third. Like, even in our political party right now, there's the idea that there's only a left and a right, but there's something in the middle that's emerging from disappointment and things like that. So we can always grow from even polarization.
Right.
Regarding the aspect of, you said, where we show up kind of complete. And that's kind of a forever unfolding journey because we always discover more about ourselves, is this. And it's that, think of a power, like what would be the difference between a power couple and a disempowered couple? A disempowered couple would be where it's a person who's a rescuer and the other person's that plays into victimhood. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's never going to be synergy created in that space or expands. It just kind of, it will burn itself out. Mm-hmm. Eventually the person who's doing the rescuing is going to experience resentment because he or she is not getting their needs met. Mm-hmm. The person who plays in the victimhood is going to experience resentment as well, also because their human spirit wants to grow. And so there's a misalignment with their soul when they're not doing the inner work. Mm-hmm. So this couple is just basically taking each other's energy. They're caught up in these negative shadows of their archetypes, and nothing's coming from that, but just the same thing, the same thing. So then some couples go, hey, well, maybe let's introduce another couple and become swingers. They'll do weird things. Or power couple is showing up where it's with or without you, I'm going to do this thing. I have a purpose. With or without you, I know who I am. And if you leave, I'm going to continue to give my gifts. Mm-hmm. I will hurt. I will grieve. However, I know who I am, and our relationship is just going to become part of my higher learning. Mm-hmm. I'm going to love you forever, but I'm going to take these gifts that I learned with our relationship and give it back to the community and so forth. And that's a power couple where they're basically, we're loving each other's dark and light. Mm-hmm. We are triggering each other sometimes. Mm-hmm. We are bringing radical honesty to these conversations to smoothen out our edges so we both can continue to grow individually, mm-hmm. but also as a couple, mm-hmm. as that third.
Mm. And teach. I like that you said that. It's like we're taking the trauma or we're taking the shadows, and then through the alchemizing in our own relationship, we then teach that. We go and serve it.
Yep.
Yeah. Then you get the hero's journey theme and on we go. Right. Yes. Yeah. It's cool stuff. So I have two.
I'm just going to do is like
directions. I want to. I have two directions I want to take the conversation here. One of them, I want to pose a question from the perspective of someone who may be watching and maybe has become aware. Like, I see these patterns where I see that I don't feel safe in a relationship, or I see that I'm trying to rescue, or I see that I'm, I do have some maybe trauma. And I know that word gets used almost in a cliche way. I have some area of my life where it's hard for me to feel love or proud of myself or encouraged or whatever it is. And I notice that I might be seeking that from relationships. So I could see a person's response from that saying, I want to pull back from relationships. Is there wisdom in that? Do you guys think? Is there wisdom in stepping away? Or I could also see a potentiality where someone gets so hung up in the, like, I'm not good enough yet, that they're still like thinking because they have any trauma or have any issues, like you're supposed to wipe away and be an angel before you can go into a relationship. What's the balance? What would be your take on that?
You're looking at me, Steve.
I have an answer for that. Well, I mean,
let's hear it.
I look at my own journey through relationships, right? And there's definitely things that each partner or each relationship pulls out of you, so to speak. And as you're working through that and you come to the realization or the self-awareness of those things, if that relationship ends, then I would take a period of time to work that through, whether it's with a coach, a therapist, doing healing work, what have you. But I know that thing was highlighted for me, and now I want to work it out so that the next relationship I enter into, I'm much clearer with my communication, who I am, sense of self, personal responsibility, etc. And we may not know what all of our shadows are, right, in every single relationship. So each one is kind of like this cog in a wheel that's giving you a deeper sense of who you are, until hopefully, one day you get into a relationship where you recognize that you can really work out the things together. And maybe it's a longer term, more sustainable, because you all have the tools, that you're working with.
Yes. We have, so for example, we have the basic foundation as far as healthy communication. Sometimes I'll give you an example. If you notice in this interview, it's taken me I'm trying to get her fully in the camera, but she didn't realize, so I just pulled her completely over. But in my mind, logic, the masculine, I could think, why does she know what I'm doing? Why doesn't she think like me? I mean, it's just
like, I just want to be like this.
And so for her, she's thinking, oh, he just wants me to get closer, like in her feminine way. So it's clear that we both have different approaches to everything. We are experiencing life so differently, even though we say we're boyfriend, girlfriend. And we've come to learn that we have had, we were thinking or feeling something different in the same situation. So if something comes up for us, we give it to the other person with curiosity, because we realize, wait a minute, maybe I'm full of shit like I was the week before that also. Maybe it's my stuff. So even though we have a strong foundation, we have new things that come up. As an example, I'm 54 and Nicole's 51. And we, for the first time, are experiencing changes in our hormones, despite we eat healthy, exercise, and everything else. And so what has come up is the conversation around libido, but it's not come from that outdated version that most humans have, oh, when you get this old, you just stop having sex, or, oh, it means that there's something wrong, or, oh, of course, if a story comes up with, I wonder if my partner will feel like I'm still attracted to him or her, or maybe I won't be desired. Those thoughts, those are just thoughts, and they could be projected out. We'll talk about that. We'll bring it up, not as truth, but let's just talk about that. Nicole will say, I've never been in my 50s. And I also say the same thing. I've never been in my 50s, nor have I dated someone in their 50s. So this is new for me also. It's not like I want to find a younger woman to make it easier for me. It's not like I'm thinking there's something wrong with Nicole or myself. It's more like, we've never been here before. Let's talk about this. Therefore, there's openness, there's expansion, there's nothing stuck, and we grow together. And the result isn't for us to go, oh, now we have a plan to have sex every minute, or, oh, now we have it all figured out. It's more, it's a rediscovery with each other through ourselves, and back again to the Trinity point, the Godhead, where we become more and more and more. That's truly what creates a sustainable, passionate relationship.
That's awesome. So something I've noticed that I think contributes to, I love reading between the lines. I love digging out the functional parts of things. I've noticed in myself, my personal journey has been realizing that I had a lot of, I was absent of certain masculine qualities in terms of, say, boundaries. And so there was unconscious people-pleasing, covert contracts that were going on. Nothing malicious. In fact, I consider myself a very good person and having good intentions. But when someone didn't understand those intentions, or they weren't mirrored back, because I didn't realize I needed to just communicate more clearly on something, then that could create resentment in a relationship I had, where I felt a victim to them not trusting me or something like that. And it was as simple as me learning to tie my shoes better. It had nothing to do with my intentions, but learning to have the courage. What I had to do to install the new skills, say, to communicate more clearly, was to confront the awkwardness I felt in my body in doing so, which was just basically, I didn't have an environment as a kid where that was normalized for me. And so because it's unfamiliar in the body, you feel it as awkwardness, cringiness, fear, and your natural tendencies to avoid it. So again, it's a good thing I had the pain in my life, or the frustration, because otherwise, how would I have known that I wasn't understanding something more clearly? And that put me on a path of actually learning it, right? So from a lot of men I noticed in today's culture are, they often do operate from this place of like covert contracts. They're not as assertive or clear in their communication or have clear boundaries and stuff. And they end up being, those qualities end up having the feminine not being as magnetized to them because they don't really trust that as leadership as much, or as a space in which they can enjoy their playfulness, because that masculine energy kind of isn't there to contain that as much. And so they kind of like, well, I just need to develop that more in myself. And then I notice, which is fine, but I notice also in women that a lot of times what women are afraid to do is be honest about how they feel in a relationship. So men might be afraid to say what I want, and women what they feel. Not that you can't, it doesn't cross those lines, but in general, there's kind of like, we're bell curving it here. I noticed that. So maybe, Nicole, if you lead on that, like, have you ever confronted in your relationship where you're having some feelings and you feel nervous that if I say what I feel that he's going to leave me or judge me or those kind of things? Do those things ever come up for you, and how do you deal with those?
Yesterday.
Ray paid me to ask you this. Ray paid me to ask you this question. Like, no,
good. Yeah. It does happen all the time. And I think, I'll call myself a recovering people pleaser. Can I call myself that? Mm-hmm. Where, expressing your feelings, let's say particularly in my childhood, it didn't feel safe because of unhealed trauma in my own parents. And so feelings were like, it was like, why would you feel that way? Or that's ridiculous. Or, stop talking about, there's just no skill set for understanding people's feelings. And what was, a way to process that. It was a lot of slamming doors and a lot of screaming, and then no talking, and then no resolution. And so feelings didn't really feel that safe. And, I've done a lot of personal development work and shadow work and tried to understand what those behaviors were. I think you said earlier, coping mechanisms or strategies when we were talking earlier. And I had all sorts of strategies. One was avoidance. I was really good at avoiding. And so one thing that I love about our relationship is I've been really honest. I'm saying, I'm feeling like I'd like to run. I'm feeling like I'd like to escape these uncomfortable conversations, because to me, that didn't feel safe in my body. And I didn't know what to do with that. It felt very awkward. So I instead have decided to lean in, because obviously I know who he is and what he stands for and how integral he is in his relationships. So I feel that safety, but it hasn't come without work, and really trying to be as honest in real time as possible. It was really key for me, was learning how to have radical honesty in real time, where I might fester over my feelings, create more stories, get even more emotional, and go down kind of like this emotional rabbit hole and get stuck in processing my emotions. So one thing there's many things, but one thing that really stands out with this relationship for me is that Ray will speak up in the moment always. and sometimes it's like, whoa, for me, it can be quite intense, as he knows, but I've learned to feel my body and to separate, let's say the intensity of my own feelings and emotions, his intensity or feelings of emotions, and going, wait, what's actually really happening here, And so, I totally understand that people have, especially women, I think we have a lot of fear around expressing our feelings because of, honestly, physical abuse, sexual abuse, many things that as women that I deal with as a women's coach, we've dealt with, and I don't want to put us in victimhood, but it does affect the nervous system. And so we have to look at our bodies and how our bodies react and separate that from, our logical mind, like what's actually really happening.
I want to share one thing, unless you want to respond first, Eric.
Well, one quick response. I just want to just validate in my own experience with that. I've noticed that I actually really have learned, like used to, I could find myself getting triggered if a girl shared her feelings, because then, then you can interpret it as like, here's what actually would happen. It wouldn't be that she was sharing her feelings. She would have a feeling and then make an assumption that would almost came off as an accusation that was coming from a place of feeling. And so I'm responding to the accusation in the story, and I learned to read underneath the surface. So part of the mastery, you learn to like not be triggered by your own feelings. Then you kind of see what's really going on, and you get curious, penetrate deeper. So the way I so-called litmus test a woman, so to speak, is like, will she open up and tell me her feelings, or is she going to just guard it and tell a story around it and try to make me wrong or whatever? Because I actually genuinely give a fuck about your feelings. I want to know that. That is important data for me to operate from. And I would want women to know that if you share your feelings, like you did it perfectly. I'm feeling a little scared and want to run right now. That's not a decision. That's just a feeling. If you share that in a relationship and your partner panics or judges you for it or tries to control or shame you for it, there's your signal right there of like, well, I did something that was honest, and does this still feel like love? And if it doesn't, why would I stay for this? And that's like kind of your test, like a woman, I've just noticed the feminist really in her power really does just simply accept or reject. She's the vetoer. She's like, feels good, doesn't feel good. And she follows what feels good and doesn't feel good. And that can be scary to someone who isn't really grounded in their, masculine as a man, which kicks us off to Ray. I know you have something to say. So if that ties in, go ahead. Otherwise,
absolutely. So as far as Nicole sharing her feelings, Nicole, anyone can say anything to me and I won't break down. I can handle even yelling. I'd rather just want someone's authenticity. Of course, if it sounds abusive and I'm being attacked or whatever, and I can't get a word in, I'm not going to listen to that. I might take pause or something like that. So with Nicole, she also had this experience where she would share her feelings, and it was coming from maybe assumption. And then she would continue maybe with the story when I would respond with how the experience was for me and how it was different. But she would still feel the need to express herself, even when I would say, I'm sorry, this is what really happened. But she was, and I asked her, I said, is it more important for you to finish your story, even if it makes you feel good? Or do you have any connection to how you would prefer to feel or how you like to expand at this point in this relationship? Because you're talking about what went wrong when already what is right is happening right now too. And I wouldn't have to, but I would always attempt to try to guide Nicole, which was more the masculine. Okay, I'm not dismissing what you're feeling, but if I just watch you talk about this another 10 minutes, I'm going to get depressed. You're going to get depressed. The furniture is going to get depressed. So and so there's that balance of feeling, and then where do we want to go? Feeling and validating that, and then recognize what is a better plan. Mm-hmm. And that's what our relationship has. And it has taken work to get there. And whenever we have had challenges, it has been when you delayed what you wanted to say. Mm-hmm. Like you didn't speak up. And then you said, well, I didn't want to do this. And those are the times that created awkwardness because it wasn't who you really were. Mm-hmm. And I picked up on that. And that was it. I'm like, so in other words, so that would also be kind of funny too, because a lot of times people will break up when it's their reactionary self having the conversation. Mm-hmm. People will break up when they're actually talking about the hidden transgressions or lies versus who we are right now and what do we want. Mm-hmm. And so we have always made a point to take pause and not sometimes get off the phone. And we don't have a bunch of stuff that comes up. But when it does, there's been moments where we're a little heated. We recognize we don't want to be our teenage versions of ourselves to work out this relationship. We want to be more the wise, embodied people that we've become.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like it. Okay. Well, what would you say to if someone's watching this and they like just practical, just down, like just say someone wants to, they know that they would love to have they'd love to feel in their power in a relationship with someone else is out in their power. What would be some practical advice for them to maybe focus on for the next year of their life or something, if they want to go through a transformation or something like that? What would be some principles that would be just really useful, practical, that would move the dial for them?
There's an exercise. You remember the sentences better than I do. When I was growing up, love meant those sentence stems.
Yeah.
So what, do you remember any of them?
Gosh, no, not in the moment, but sentence stems for like love, like.
What did love mean?
What did love
first words come
for
to mind?
me? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So do you go? I'm sorry. I put you on the spot.
No, go ahead. That's okay.
No, I don't know it that well. It's actually in my book.
Oh.
I don't have
my work is your book.
Yeah.
It is about love, right? Like, what did love mean to me when I was growing up? Because everybody has a different definition of what they feel love is, and how is that love expressed? So I think that was one of them, right?
Yeah, it's just basically a rundown. I'll just see if I can bang it up.
Yeah.
What was the meaning that I've come to know about love growing up? You write that down. How would I like to feel love now? How do I know when I'm loved? Do I know the difference between love and fear? If I was in a relationship, how would I like love to be expressed? If I were to be hurt or feel rejected, how can I love myself anyway? These are simple questions you can ask yourself as a beginning point to recognize, oh, I don't even have a healthy relationship to love. So if I were to start dating people, I wouldn't have a healthy love map. So it's just first kind of creating that love map to yourself to understand, what does it mean to you? As an example, I've seen this with people where they're not coaches, nor have they have any background trauma, where they'll judge people, such as saying, I cannot believe she stayed in that relationship. I cannot believe he didn't leave that toxic person. But then when you understand their background, where they had a parent who always would put them down and then say, I love you, or hit them and say, it's only for your own good, then there's a mixed message with what love truly is and what actually fear is. And so they don't know the difference in relationships. Therefore, they continue to be in abusive relationships because they were abused as a child. And so love equals abuse. It's plain and simple. And so it's very important to get rid of your trauma story and then recreate your love map.
Yeah, I think a really good perspective is also just realize that no one escapes childhood with a perfect programming for life, where you're hooked up, where everything's going to be perfect. Something in your environment was dysfunctional, missing. We're talking about factors that come from a cultural level that like there's just no way out of. Like you have to look to true wisdom that's been passed down throughout the years, So it's okay to be not okay, to know these things are coming up, and another thing I want to just really focus on, what I'm noticing, and want to just hammer really. If I could take a nail and hammer it into someone's head, it's this. It's not about being perfect to be in a relationship or finding the perfect partner. It's about your willingness to grow and realize that, and have courage in the process of growth, and look for that quality in someone else. And that's something that can be a saving grace, because neither one of you both are going to have your shit, the stuff that you've dealt with. But if you both are willing to grow and you can share that quality together, I think that's like the glue. That's really what fosters the real communication, in a relationship. The communication that matters. Yeah.
Just a quick example would be, so Nicole and I have a strong foundation, such as we are committed. We're not hooking up other people. We're also committed to having a healthy conversation, whatever problem arises. That's just it. So no matter what, that's a safe space. We have that foundation. And so even if, say, her and I were to say not have sex for a month, that doesn't mean we're going to break up. Or if we noticed that we were spending less time together, we wouldn't automatically assume that something's going to happen because we have that container. Because we would probably also logically go, we actually been communicating fine. We just haven't have had sex. We communicate it where we're from the perspective that we have something really healthy here, and that these are the things that kind of come up. What could be in our way? Maybe it's work, but it's more a space where we don't look at when we're not doing that thing that we think we're supposed to be doing, like having sex all the time, to traveling. Like there's so much that couples think they're supposed to be doing that's not even their true story. It's just outdated paradigms. It's just that you got to get clear with what works for you and what healthy container can hold space for the relationship to grow and thrive. And in that, then you can be radically honest with each other and just remain curious, because we're not going to break up with these conversations. We're just going to continue to get to know each other better and better and better.
The word that came up for me was self-resourced. Like, if we are self-resourced within ourselves, if we know what safety means, within ourselves, if we know what trust means, within ourselves, if we know what love means, all of those things, like we need to have the capacity to do that for ourselves first, and resourcing that within ourselves, because that's what we're bringing to the container as well. So if I'm tired and exhausted, I'm bringing tired and exhausted to the container. If I'm healthy and joyful, I'm bringing vibrancy to the container. So it is about, your own, let's say, self-care. Self-resource to me is also like our connection with spirit or higher self or God. It's maintaining your own self-love and self-awareness and personal development, like we've been talking about, and making sure that that's the first priority. So you can bring that attention, care, compassion, curiosity, all the words we've been using, to the relationship. So that might look like a ritual. It might look like meditation in the morning, doing a little journaling sometimes, taking a walk in nature, just filling yourself up in the ways that you can, so your cup is overflowing, as we like to say, in healing work, So, yeah.
I'm having a thought come up. I'm getting a download. Divine light is descending upon me. My flame is lighting, and I'm going to speak truth. No, the thing that comes up for me is, I think a really practical thing that's helped me in the past, and I think is great advice for anyone. And I like when you're talking about what does love look like to me, or what would I want to receive from someone in a relationship? What would feel good to me to receive in a relationship? What's the idea I have? Write it down and then go give it to yourself. Date yourself. Go practice that. And doing that is an act of honest, like, self-love. And if you can show up as that person in a relationship and maintain that with someone else who also is good at that, then that's like next level. I think that's what you guys really, have going on there. Yeah.
I love what you had to say, Eric, but I'm thinking for a moment, there's going to be some person going, that sounds like what a narcissist would say. He's going to date him or herself. So it's like so interesting, but that comes from self-hate and whatever else. But there you go.
I love that concept. It's actually something that I actually did before I met Ray. Did
you have a better time?
It was like, really being there for myself and dating myself. Like, I know people who even buy themselves flowers and do things like that, right? But also it was a list that I started to build of how did I want to feel in the relationship? How did I want to explore life with this person? What were things that I could collaborate with, and what were like non-negotiables for me? And what could I compromise on? All the different aspects of a relationship. I just started to kind of dream into it and feel what it would feel like. And
did you
showed up?
Did you take yourself to the mall and take selfies with mannequins also?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
That'd be weird. It's like
mannequin in the Speedos.
Oh, yeah. I want a guy who's comfortable in European Speedos.
Well, very good, guys. We'll go ahead and wrap this up. But I appreciate you guys coming on. I think this will. I really hope that this will be useful to anyone watching who is it, like, just if you're honest and you look, you see that the world is there's not as, it can seem like there's not a lot of great examples of great relationships out there. It's just because they're not celebrated. What we pay more attention to is the drama, the news, the things that are the aberrations in society. So I wanted to bring on, Ray and Nicole, because they're not perfect. They still have their shit they're working on, but they have the skill of being willing to work on it, and they share that together. And I think that's something, I don't think that's too tall of an order for any human being that cares about living a life that's true to themselves. So Dr. Ray and Nicole, if someone wants to get involved with your cult, how do they sign up?
It's 3,300.
Yeah, for just $3,333 a month.
Yeah,
you can find your twin flame too.
So my website is raydoktor.com, raydoktor.com. That's my website. Very easy to find me there, or on YouTube and other areas where I have social platforms.
And mine is Nicole, Nicole, Ananda, Ananda, coaching.com.
And give just a little clarification from watching, like, Dr. Ray, what kind of coaching do you specialize and enjoy? Like, and Nicole, you as well. So you guys plug yourself.
Well, I'm a life and relationship coach, but really what I do is help people break through the most difficult things they've been trying to get past, even seasoned people in the transformational world. So, so a person might come to me for their relationship, but we always end up working on him or herself. We go deep, and we do pretty much what we share in this video is that we help remove those inner prisons that people create through their negative belief system.
Yeah, what I like, I'll plug, just throw a little plug on top of your plug. What I like about what you do, Ray, is that you are trying to teach people not to need you. Like,
yes,
you want people, you're like, here's a mirror holding up to it so we can see, you can help the person self-realize, here's the pattern that isn't serving you. Here's a tool to help you kind of reprogram or adjust and change. Let's put a container for a little time, and now let's get you off and out functioning in life. You don't need to walk away from your family or leave your friends or keep coming back to me. I want you to be free and sovereign. I think that's a very important distinction. And you as well, Nicole. Tell us a little bit deeper about your coaching.
Yeah.
Why you do it, who you like to help.
I love to help women. So women's empowerment. And I say that I like to unleash their passion, power, and purpose. Primarily, it's about unpacking also childhood trauma, early childhood development, what their core limiting beliefs are, what their behaviors are, how they show up in relationships, even their own self-relationship, and identifying that so they can become more confident, more authentic, and really align with their truth of purpose, whether that's a business or it's coming into a deeper relationship or switching careers, whatever the things are. They're becoming more aligned with themselves. So
beautiful. Yeah. Awesome. Well, once again, thank you guys for coming and being willing to share a little inside look into your power couple relationship. If you guys want to learn more, you got the links below the video here. And of course, if you found value in this video, and you please like, share, leave a comment. You can comment on Ray's shirt or something in the comments, tell Nicole she's beautiful, because she is. And subscribe to the channel if you want more updates on this kind of stuff, and share it. There's other people that could use this information that can help them to feel more empowered in life and to move into a better relationship with themselves so that they can have better relationships, period. So appreciate you guys coming on. We'll see you next time, huh?
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Dr. Ray here, and thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate your support, and you are the one who drives this channel. So if you like to be notified when new videos come out, please subscribe to my channel and push the bell button so you are notified when new videos come out. I appreciate you supporting this channel.